Hello and welcome everyone. This is another episode where we are going to interview one of our another rising stars from TeejLab, Amishi Arora, and talk to her about like what she did at TeejLab, how she started, and how is everything else around TeejLab ecosystem. So without further ado, let's welcome Amishi. Amishi, how are you doing?
I'm good. How are you, Gaurav?
Good, just enjoying the sunny day. Another Friday.
Yep.
Can't wait for the weekend, right?
Yep.
How about you? How's like your weekend? Any plans
It's
for
good.
weekend?
No, just gonna rest up, hang out
Yeah,
with family. Yeah.
that's awesome. So, let's just get started. For all our audience, let's talk about like from the start, right? Like how you started interacting with Teach Lab. What was like was your role when you started, and what you were
Um,
doing? Yeah,
well, I was introduced through TeejLab through a work experience course offered at my school, where basically we were required to complete 90 hours of work experience at a company. And I reached out to Baljeet and asked if I was able to volunteer. And I was called in for an interview, and then I was given a spot as a volunteer where I was responsible for adding APIs to the online discovery platform. So that's basically how I was introduced to the company.
that's awesome. That's great. Like you guys are getting all these work experiences, and like
Yeah,
Teach Lab is interacting with all the academics. That's amazing.
yeah, for sure.
So what was like the project you started working? Like, can you tell us more about it?
Well, I started off adding APIs to the online discovery platform. Initially, I didn't have any idea of what APIs were, but Baljeet did a really good job of introducing the concept to us and, really thoroughly explaining what they were and what their role was in the software industry. So we were taken through the process of how to add these APIs to the online platform and
Mhm.
also through what sources to find them online. And so my first project was basically just finding APIs online and adding them to the website. That's basically what I started off doing.
That's awesome. So, assuming you learned a lot during that time,
Yeah, for sure.
that's great because like for me too, like I started like I APIs are 84% of the internet, right? Like not a lot of
Hmm.
people know that. And
Hmm.
I like it's amazing you learned that in your high school, right? Through these great
Yeah.
programs. Because like for me, I learned it like way like in the second half of my university.
Yeah.
Like it's such a great thing. You guys are getting such a great experience and like actually real world how things work. So that's amazing to hear.
Yeah,
So
it definitely gave me a head start. Yeah.
yeah. So can you tell me like one of the APIs you added to the system which you really liked?
Well, it was quite a while ago. If I can remember, there was one which basically a user entered a picture and it kind of told you what was detected in the picture, like what kind of objects were seen. I thought that was really cool. And it was really interesting to see how that could be applied to different projects.
That's awesome. I think I've used that one for one of the presentations in one.
Oh,
Yeah, that's amazing. I had no idea you added
yeah.
that. That's great. And so with this whole like engagement and everything, what else you did other than adding? Did you did any coding or programming?
We did like with my co-volunteers, we brainstormed algorithms together to solve like specific problems that the company wanted to have a solution to. So we worked on those, and we also looked at like um, other ways that like APIs could be applied to technology. So it wasn't always just adding APIs. We did a lot of applications as well. We also looked at like debugging. I remember one time we were introduced to a new version of the platform, and we kind of looked at how we would go about debugging the platform, which gave me a lot of insight into how that process works.
That's awesome. And so what was the problem? Like, let's talk about algorithms. That's like one of my favorite things to talk about all the time is
Mm-hmm.
algorithms and how to do troubleshooting and problem solving
Mm-hmm.
of real life. So, can you tell us a little bit more about the problem and how what was the algorithm without giving like much detailed specific?
Well, it was basically Baljeet wanted to come up with a point system. So for each time you added an API, he wanted the user to obtain a specific number of points. And we wanted to make one that was fair and, it depended on like, for example, how many APIs were under the vendor and like how much information you had added. So basically, we all brainstormed different ways and like we would go about that and how many points we would assign for each aspect that was added. So yeah, that was basically
That's awesome. Yeah, big, and that's a big one. I'm not sure if you
Mhm.
have looked a lot in the open source community because when I was in my university year, open source was something I was just in love with, kind of. So I was looking at all these organizations, and all of them have this contribution program. So what you work is sign of like being part of a big community and actually helping the community lead to a brighter future. That's beautiful. And you
Yeah.
mentioned about Baljeet, right? Like, and other staff. I think Baljeet was the main coordinator, the supervisor for all you guys.
Yeah.
Awesome. So, what were like the things you learned from Baljeet, like in terms of training, mentorship, employment opportunities, and various domains? What were like some of the key learnings?
Well, of course, Bilji initially introduced me to the concepts of APIs in general, but he didn't just stop there. He would always discuss about how we would use specific APIs, like in real world, and how we would apply it to different projects. And what I specifically liked about my time there was at the end, we would all me and all my co-volunteers would all share what APIs we added, and we would all share our thoughts about how it would be used. So it definitely like taught me about how APIs are used in the software industry.
That's awesome. And with that like experience, assuming you have like been able to use that, right? Like a lot in terms of now you are in university, I assume, right?
No, I'm still in grade 12.
Oh, okay, you're in grade
Yeah.
12. That's
Yeah.
amazing. Sorry. That's awesome. So in grade 11 you learned all these stuff. That's
Yes.
that's
Yeah.
mind-boggling. Wow.
Yeah.
Good for you. So with the experience, like how are like any things you have applied like in recent hours since those learning and since the working with TeachLab, any things you have applied out of those work?
Yeah, so actually last year we had to do a project in our computer programming class and we had to create like an inquiry project where basically we made whatever we wanted. And I wanted to create a book tracking app where users could keep track of the books that they've read. And what I thought was I could use a book API for users to search up a book and add it to their list. And, all of Baljeet's teachings helped me like know where to find the API and how I would use it. And it gave me like definitely a head start in creating these larger projects.
That's awesome. And with Bulji, right? Like, how was your experience working with like other teacher staff? I know like it was mostly during the COVID time, everything was hybrid almost. So how was like interaction, whether through Zoom and all these other tech? How was the experience?
Well, from my experience, everybody was very welcoming. They were really accommodating and, they were always here to help me and answer any questions I had. And I was able to learn a lot through them as well. And it was a really good experience working alongside professionals who had so much experience in the industry. And I was able to gain a lot from that.
That's awesome. And any specific moment you remember during this whole engagement with the staff members, you were like, "Oh, this is amazing. I will remember this for the rest of my life."
Well, after my volunteer placement, when I did a summer internship, I remember we would have our semi-weekly meetings, and I really enjoyed those because I really learned a lot through the other workers, and I thought that was really amazing, and it gave me so much valuable insight. So I really enjoyed that. Yeah.
That's awesome. And this is like my favorite thing to ask is like because we have so many life cycle related like softwares and programs in our TeejLab ecosystem, right? What is one of your favorite ones and like the one you touched and you were like, oh wow, this is amazing, and this is what I like to do more into.
Can you give me an example of what you're referring to?
Yeah, so with TeejLab, right, like we have discovery as one aspect of the life cycle, right?
Yeah.
Then we have security testing.
Yeah.
Then we
Oh,
have
okay.
network scanning. Yeah. So
Well, during my time, I mostly just interacted with the Discovery platform. I didn't really get to dive deeper into the security aspects. I would definitely love to look into that more. But just from my experience, the API Discovery platform was really interesting. I had never seen something like that before, and it was just really cool to see the hundreds of APIs that were available for us to find. So, yeah.
that's beautiful. Awesome. And so this is like a quick fun thing for the audience and people, like probably this is one questions a lot of people are want to hear from you is
Mhm.
any words of wisdom for the future prospect like students, interns, or employees who will be interacting with TeachLab and will be becoming part of this TeachLab family. Any future words or words of wisdom?
Well, just take advantage of the opportunity, ask questions. This is your opportunity to learn more and gain such valuable insight. So take advantage of it, um, ask a lot of questions, interact with all the other employees, and just make connections with others. It'll definitely help you in your future. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's great to hear. That's actually like a great answer.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you heard it here, folks. Networking, ask questions, don't be afraid to deep dive. We are all here to help. Thank you so much, Amishi. Thank you so much for taking time out and giving everyone, including me, some great values from this
Of
interview
course.
and
Yeah.
looking to work with you in future again.
Yeah. Thank you
See
so
ya.
much.
Yeah, see ya. Bye.
Bye.